Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Thurgood Marshall College Fund Transformation Scholarships call. We're going to give it just another minute. We've got a few people that are still trying to get in, and so once we do that, we're going to get started. So hopefully that works with everybody.
Good afternoon, Betsy, Burton-Strunk, and
Well,
everyone. How are you today?
good. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see everybody. There's so many friendly faces on this call. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we are going to go ahead and record so that everybody will have the benefit of this call, because even though I'm sure everyone on this call is going to take copious notes, there will be many more that you'll want to go back and reflect on as you get your organizations to fund more scholarships, or some scholarships if you haven't already. So for the sake of everybody's time, and for those who joined us Johnny on the spot, we're going to go ahead and get started. Over the course of the next 4.5 hours, just kidding, over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, we are going to talk to you about Thurgood Marshall College Fund and our scholarships program. There are several people from TMCF who are going to engage, but we also have folks we have a student that you're going to really fall in love with, as well as one of our amazing partners that is going to talk about their experience. For the call today, we'd love to have an interactive session towards the end. Like we said, we are going to be recording this call. We also will be taking questions towards the end, and we want to be able to provide you with lots more detail, especially as we continue our relationships with many of you. Some of you would be brand new partners to us, and some will be partners that want to expand your relationships. And for that, we are eternally grateful. So if it's okay with everybody, let's go ahead and get started. All right. Well, thanks for the head nods. So TMCF has been around as an organization since 1987. And I'm going to show you a video in just a minute that gives you a little bit more detail so that you don't have to just hear me talk for the next hour. Though I'm sure that would be lovely for many. It's for most, including my husband, it's not really something that they want to hear all the time. So we're going to split it up a little bit and hear from Marcellus Northington Winston, who is an amazing student from North Carolina A&T. We're going to talk about why scholarships and why now, and talk a little bit about the impact of the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action. Then we're going to have our amazing partner from Cheniere have a conversation about their experience, and then a little bit about how do scholarships work and a call to action, and what we're hoping we can do with you all on the call.
Thurgood Marshall College Fund, promoting access and equity for over 30 years. Our vision is changing the world one leader at a time. Our mission is to ensure student success by promoting educational excellence and preparing the next generation of workforce talent through leadership development. The hard number truth is, only 2% of top executives at the 50 largest companies are Black, and the ratio of Black laborers to senior level managers is 105-1, compared to 7-1 for white workers. That's why Thurgood Marshall College Fund is on an ambitious mission to change the face of leadership in business and beyond by amplifying the ambitions of those society may overlook or underestimate. We champion the ambition of our students, the intention of our partners, and the volition of our institutions. We carry forward the legacy of Justice Marshall by working tirelessly to promote access, diversity, equity, and inclusion through 5 focus areas. Student scholarships, because where you're born shouldn't decide who you become. Talent sourcing, because we champion the ambitious spirit no matter where it originates. equity and upskilling programs, because anyone striving to be someone should be championed by everyone. Capacity building, because we know historically, Black colleges and universities are critical to creating a more equitable society. Finally, policy and advocacy, because we believe that HBCUs have the power and people to lead social change and make a global impact. Our world-class partners have joined us on this quest. By investing in our programs, companies develop students and gain access to highly qualified, diverse talent. Join us on this quest. Your company's next leaders are at TMCF. Who's next?
Well, I think that's a really powerful video that really shares the highlights and showcases why TMCF does what it does and why it's so important for all of us on the call to focus our attention on our HBCUs and our HBCU students. But there are other realities that we want to share. And one thing to understand is we have hundreds of facts that we could share with you. And I think those of you who know me, and many of you on this call do, you know I could tell you facts and stats for the next hour and a half. But here are the real highlights we want to know. We want to note. The first is the number one reason that students leave school is because they don't have the money to pay for school. And that is a critically important piece to think about as we go through the rest of the discussion. And the other thing, I know we have a couple of folks from financial institutions on the call, and we're not going to call you out on this, but as you listen to the conversation today and you write down some of the numbers and you do the math, you'll see that the math doesn't add up when you think about the cost of attendance at HBCUs, which is about $28,000 a year. And that's talking about in-state, including tuition, fees, room, board. And the average student loan debt for HBCU students is over $32,000 when they graduate. When I started working at TMCF 4 years ago, I should have introduced myself. That would have been smart. When I started working at TMCF 4 years ago, the average student loan debt was much lower than that. So it's only continuing to rise. And this borrowing is aspirational because our students understand the difference an education makes. We know that when HBCU students graduate from school, 70% of them will permanently enter the middle class. When we look at that student loan debt, 20%, the student loan debt for HBCU students is 20% higher than students that attend PWIs. Another key point to note is over 70% of HBCU students receive a Pell Grant at some time during their college career. Now, many of you have heard the term Pell Grants, but you may not know what that means. You may have heard it and you're like, oh, Pell Grant. But what a Pell Grant is it is an award that the student does not need to pay back. And they're generally provided for students with family incomes of up to $45,000. It changes a little bit every year, but most of the awards go to students who have family incomes of less than $20,000 a year. So if you think about that, you just think about that for a minute. These Pell Grants are critical for the success of our students. But Pell Grants this year cover $7,395. So if you think about that, and you think about the number above, about 28,000, that's only about a quarter of the cost of attendance. So like I talked about at the top of this slide, keep that number in mind when we start talking about scholarships. The other thing it's important to note, over the last 5 years, the number of students that have needed scholarships and have requested scholarships has increased by over 260%. That is huge. And for every dollar we award, we know that there's $20 more needed. And most importantly, we know that these scholarships help students stay in school, they matriculate, they graduate, and we know that that leads to wealth building and economic mobility, which I think is why we all want to help engage with our students at HBCUs. But you've heard enough from me. Let me turn it over to a student who I found to be one of the most impressive young men that I've met. I'm going to turn it over to Marcellus Northington Winston, a student at North Carolina A&T. So Marcellus, why don't you take it away?
Awesome. Thanks, Miss Bessie. I greatly appreciate, the introduction, as well as everyone on the call. Thank you all so much for your time, really dedicating, the importance of awareness when it comes to the talent here at HBCUs, as well as the capabilities that we have to impact not only the market but the globe. And so, someone like myself who has that perspective and has that vision, it's really important for me to be, in this position to pay it forward, right? To really expand upon the awareness of how much cost is for students like us who want to achieve not only in their career, but in their life and in their destiny. So, without a doubt, it goes without saying, I would not be where I am today without TMCF. So for that, thank you all so much. And specifically this year and last year, I've had the wonderful privilege of being awarded the Adobe Ignite Scholarship. And so that is a scholarship from Adobe who, sees someone as a creative and someone with a need base. And so for me, again, specifically, I've been a lifelong artist. And so being someone who has used Adobe products in terms of my business and art endeavors is really just empowering, knowing that they see, something within me and I'm able to, again, pay that forward. And so it's also a big perspective as well, because specifically with that scholarship, there's thousands of students who have applied for the program and it's awarded. I don't know if I'm the only, but I know it's a select few, right? And so again, that's only one scholarship out of hundreds of other scholarships that thousands of students are gaining the, just financial empowerment to finish strong. Because again, we saw the statistics, and again, for someone like myself, the oldest of four children, my family, they have great jobs, but when it comes to, again, just finances purely, when you break it down per child, like I wasn't awarded a Pell Grant, but if it was fair, right, like then I would probably be eligible. So again, it's just really important to understand this need base and be someone who is in those shoes and really trying to make an impact. So again, for that, I do appreciate TMCF and everyone on the call just being willing to understand the opportunities here and understanding how we're paying it forward. So I definitely want to introduce Miss Sherry Rhodes, who is Assistant Vice President of External Affairs with TMCF as well. So thanks again.
On mute. Thank you so much, Marcellus. He truly is an incredible young man with an incredibly bright future ahead of him. Choosing to pursue his dreams instead of deferring them, he is putting in all of the requisite time, effort, and energy into achieving his goals. And with the odds stacked firmly against him, Marcellus, with TMCF staff and partners pouring into and investing in his future, he is defying the odds and excelling in every level. And if you're asking why now, why should you invest now? Marcellus is the reason why. He, along with thousands more Black and Brown students attending institutions that we represent, are why we should be investing and you should be supporting TMCF and its initiatives. Why should any of their dreams be deferred? But the reality is, without support from you, other corporations, organizations, and foundations similarly situated, many of those dreams of those Black and Brown students that we represent, they will not only be deferred, but they will die. And that's a reality. And the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action, ending race-conscious admissions considerations in higher ed, makes that reality much more dire, to be honest. And while I don't have a crystal ball, to peer into the future, what I can say that it is, I can almost guarantee, I would say, that there will be an even greater decline in racial diversity at PWIs, public and private, as well as in corporate America. And I say that for a number of reasons. for some of those public and private PWIs will eagerly avail themselves of the Supreme Court's decision, right? And that's fine. That's on them. That's their prerogative, and that's not our concern yet. We'll take that up at another date, right? But what is our concern is that the Black and brown students who spent years matriculating through grade school and high school, working tirelessly to, graduate with honors, right? Volunteering, participating in extracurricular activities just to gain favorable admissions to these Ivy League institutions, they are likely going to be predisposed to pass on those institutions and won't apply. Right? Because they're not going to feel like they're going to get a fair shake at admissions. Instead, they're going to opt to apply to our institutions. And that could have that dire effect for corporate America, right? And its corporate ranks, because corporate America tends to go to the same pool of candidates from the same institutions for its talent, instead of looking at a TMCF who is known for its talent acquisition services and providing the best and the brightest of all that HBCUs have to offer. They will keep going to that same Harvard pool career services, the same UNC career service, same Georgetown career services, right? That will no longer have those candidates that look like us, look like the customers that are part of the demographic that you're seeking to serve, and thus your leadership will start to look more like the Harvard, student population and your Georgetown student population. So it could have, quite a glaring effect on corporate America as well. In addition, the Supreme Court's decision, coupled with our current political climate, racially motivated assaults, bomb threats on our campuses and communities of color, and on PWI campuses, there have been scores of protests from Black and brown students because they don't feel safe. They don't feel welcome. And many of those students are opting to seek shelter and education experiences, places where they feel like they are wanted and a community. So they're looking to us, HBCUs. Why is it a concern for us? Well, because our institutions have limited capacity already. We have limited capacity to meet the current demand, because they've historically and consistently been underfunded, creating issues regarding deferred maintenance, the need for new infrastructure, new research and development facilities, housing, academic services, online learning platforms. I could go on and on and on, of course, but the bottom line is we can't meet the existing need. And that is pre-decision. Applications and enrollment at HBCUs were up 44%, pre-decision. Imagine what those numbers will look like as we start to see the effects of, the admission policies come down, right? So I think that one of the things that we have to think about is, how do we fill the gap? Yes, our HBCUs are state funded. And states are required to match federal funding, but it's simply not happening. In this slide, we provided a snapshot of the funding disparities between PWIs and HBCUs that we represent. And by and large, a collective shortfall of $15 billion in just 33 years. That demonstrates the need not only for scholarship dollars, but advocacy for our institutions to compel states to completely and fully fund our HBCUs at the same level in which they're funding those state PWIs. So this is a scholarship conversation. So I want to, if the institutions do not have the funding to make their historic buildings ADA compliant, if they don't have the funding to build housing, right, they don't have the funding to provide those extra dollars that our students need. Number one, to just live on campus, the quality of living. It's difficult being from a family. You're the first generation college student. You know, you have mom, grandma, everybody, the entire community pitching in, right? So that was the case for me. And it's hard when you go to your institution and they're like, we don't have any dollars to help you, right? You have to go into debt. You have to actually, apply for a loan, right? We don't want that for our students. And with your help, we won't have to do that for our students, right? Think about this as an investment. Partnering with TMCF to provide scholarships for students attending our institutions is a strategic investment in not only your organization's future, but also the future of the students. So I know that they will both yield long-term benefits. And I ask you and I urge you to invest in your future as well as the future of our students. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our partner, Obi, to let him tell you how his organization is partnering and investing in their future. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think, Betsy, you're probably going to toggle over to the slide to at least populate a picture of myself. There you go. There you have it. Me looking happy. So a pleasure to have this opportunity in this forum to introduce, the concept of the sort of the Cheniere Thurgood partnership. A little bit about myself. I'm an attorney at Cheniere Energy, Inc., and a member of the Cheniere Foundation, which is a private foundation that complements Cheniere's community investment activities, and also a proud graduate of Howard Law. In terms of Cheniere, we are a publicly traded company that's headquartered in Houston, energy company that maintains or operates facilities on the Gulf Coast. We do operate worldwide, so we've got offices in DC, London, Singapore, China, et cetera. And what I'll say is that we're a very small company in terms of scale and personnel-wise, and relatively young in terms of operating, right? So we've been operating maybe 6 or 7 years, but we've been growing quite substantially in terms of scale, and we're currently almost a Fortune 100 company. And I say all that to say that we're very young in our journey, and one of the sort of the catalysts with us reaching out to Thurgood was to figure out an approach that made sense for us based on our profile. We wanted to develop an approach that was fit for our profile, a very young company that didn't have a lot of experience with HBCU engagements, scholarships, and trying to design an approach that was palatable for where we were at. We didn't want to sort of just throw dollars at the communities without being intentional in terms of developing something that made sense for our operations, right? So one of the first things that we spoke to Thurgood about was that we wanted to be really intentional about investing in our local communities. And for us, again, we operate in Houston, headquartered in Houston, but we have office in DC. So in that sense, we wanted to be targeted towards certain institutions that were local to the offices and the facilities that we operate in. So for us, it was TSU right in our backyard in Houston, but also Prairie View A&M, Southern in Louisiana, and Howard University as well. So one of the things that was very encouraging for us was how flexible Thurgood was in that regard, right? So allowing us to sort of design an approach that was bespoke for Cheniere based on size, based on our maturity. We found that process was very, very flexible for us and very encouraging. Another element of our approach was that even though we're small, we want to be very hands-on, right? So we wanted to have at least an initial engagement that allowed us to sort of see the impacts that we would have with these scholarships. And part of that was designing a structure that allowed us to obviously figure out how much money we wanted to give, which was about $6,000 per semester, but also allowing some opt-ins for the students to connect with us through mentoring opportunities and also potential talent pipeline opportunities as well, right? So in that sense, we've been able to not only give scholarships to certain students, but also extend job internship opportunities, that is, to students that have received the scholarships. And for us, that's been particularly an encouraging experience because of the opportunity to see them to get to, know Chenier, experience sort of the energy space, and also thereby create a pipeline potentially for students that would grow with Chenier and potentially work with us as we grow our company. One thing I'll say to sort of the group here in terms of the opportunity with Thurgood is, again, the flexibility that we've enjoyed so far, being able to design an approach that was essentially like us dipping our toe in. We didn't feel pressured in any way to give a certain amount or to tailor our program in any other way than the way that made sense for where we're at as a company. We're encouraged by that, and we've worked really hard to continue to brainstorm opportunities to continue to scale and to design an approach that makes sense for our business as we continue to grow. Besides that, at a personal level, it's been encouraging to see the stories that we've heard from the students. Again, being an HBCU grad myself, we were certainly cognizant of the impacts that we can make, and wanting to be a responsible corporate operator. We want to make sure that we're really hearing the stories of the students that are local to where we operate, providing opportunities for them to grow in their academic journeys, but also providing career opportunities as well to the extent that that's possible. So we've really appreciated the framework that Thurgood has provided in that regard, and we certainly look forward to future growth and opportunities. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Betsy as well. Thank you.
Oh, well, Obi, thank you so much. We really appreciate and value your partnership. And Marcellus, you did a fantastic job too. So thank you. And I think what you've heard so far is you've heard about the Adobe Scholarship Program, which is a very large scholarship program that benefits a lot of students and different majors. And as you heard from Marcellus, he's a creative. He's very technically natured. You probably saw from his slide that he participates in our pitch and our Meta Scholars. I know that Toyota's on the phone. If you need to know anything about the Meta Scholars or our Campus One, he's your guy. But anyways, so we've heard about that program, and we've got a couple of other partners on this call that have been extremely generous in their funding models, like Truist, for example. And we also have programs like Obi said that are bespoke and they're new in their journey. Was what Obi said. And as we look at our partners and our partnerships, what we want to do is create programs that work. I'm our vice president of development, and part of my responsibility is to make sure that as we have conversations, we build programs that matter and that are meaningful and that help create opportunities for you to engage with students, but also meet your goals as long as we are intentional in keeping the North Star the North Star. And our North Star at Thurgood Marshall College Fund is our students. And how can you not, right? As you heard from Marcellus, how can you not keep that your focus? Before I turn it over to the scholarships team, next week, we're going to have 450 HBCU students in Washington, D.C. And this experience that we're going to have is an opportunity to provide professional development experiences for our students. And it just will, again, reinforce the need to make sure that we're pouring into our HBCU students who are incredible talents and will do amazing work for you in your organizations. But before I get on my soapbox, as many of you know that I can, I'm going to turn it over to our incredibly talented scholarship team, and in particular, Jacqueline Powers, who is our Associate Vice President. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about our scholarships and how they operate.
Thanks so much, Betsy, and thank you all for joining today. Just listening to the conversation, I literally have goosebumps and chills because the time is now. This money goes to use immediately. Prior to joining TMCF about 2 years ago, I served as an enrollment manager for one of our member schools, and I can tell you that partnership is valuable. The partnership is very valuable. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our scholarships by the numbers. Right now, we are still actively in the awarding process for our 23-24 academic year that just kicked off a month ago. But so far, we have seen, and actually this number has increased since yesterday, we're actually at a little over 52,000 applications per student. So when we talk about the need, I mean, that number definitely demonstrates it. Students are aware of Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the scholarship opportunities and the professional development that we provide, and they're actively seeking. And so this is why we wish to continue to have your support and encourage your support. We do have a number of students that move through that completed application stage, a little over 16,000. And those numbers, again, that's in counting, because we do still have some scholarship opportunities that are open right now for the 23-24 academic year. We are positioned to make over 2,500 awards. And in years past, we have actually exceeded that number. And so we are tracking right on target this year. Over 80 scholarship partners. You heard from OB. I have a chance to work with OB hand in hand to create some of those scholarship opportunities, and actually had an opportunity last year to meet some of his scholars who are also actively engaged on those campuses. And over 100 plus different scholarship opportunities that students can take advantage of. So whether it's the open-ended scholarships that you'll hear a little bit more about just in a few minutes, or if it's those carefully crafted scholarship opportunities that you heard Obi mentioned, the floor is yours, the opportunity is yours. And I'd like to just say, as the scholarships team, we are here to partner with you to make the most efficient and most realistic opportunity happen for the students. And just, we're really big on relationships with our scholarships team. So I'll pause for a little while because I want to turn it over to my partner in crime, my number two, Shauna Pryor, who will talk to you a little bit more about what the scholarship process actually looks like.
All right, thank you so much, Jackie. So as you all may know, scholarships are the heartbeat of our organization. And again, as you've been hearing throughout this conversation, our primary goal is to ensure our students at our HBCUs make it to that finish line. And so we do this through our access scholarships and our hardship and gap scholarships. And Jackie, a little bit later, will get into our hardship and gap scholarships. But our access scholarships are our traditional fall and spring semester scholarships that support the overall cost of attendance, which includes tuition, fees, and room and board. And these scholarships can typically range from $5,000 to $25,000. And our average scholarship amount is $7,913. So you may be thinking, well, what do the requirements look like for a TMCF scholarship? Well, those requirements can vary. So some requirements may include specific majors, classifications. Is this scholarship a renewable or a one-time scholarship? Does your scholarship offer any wraparound services, such as the professional development, mentoring, or leadership? Is your scholarship open to only TMCF member schools? Is it open to all HBCUs or just specific HBCUs? Now, when partnering with TMCF, you want to think about, what is your goal? Is the goal to help students get to and through school? If so, you want to make sure your requirements are broad. Broad eligibility requirements open a larger pool to assist and reach as many students as possible who need this funding. All right, so I will now pass it back to Jackie to discuss our hardship gap scholarships. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shauna. And so we talked a little bit about the access scholarships, but believe it or not, sometimes students exhaust all of their resources. So sometimes they've taken out the student loan. Sometimes they've received institutional dollars. Sometimes they've even received a scholarship or two from us, and there is still a need. And that's where hardship and gap scholarships come in. These scholarships are typically there to cover just that small gap. And we do have a lot of students that benefit from that gap. Partners on the call right now actually have some hardship and gap scholarships available for 23-24. And those are the students that we are actively awarding now. And so please don't feel like just because you don't have a super large commitment at the moment that you're not able to partner with us, because please believe me, those awards from $500 to $2,500 truly make a difference. And so again, we are looking forward to continuing relationships with those who have relationships with us and beginning relationships with those who are interested. And so that's just a little bit about the scholarships process, our numbers. And at this time, I'd like to pass it over to the esteemed leader, Mr. George Spencer, who serves as our Chief Innovation and Growth Officer. George.
Well, thanks, Jackie, and thanks, team, for pulling this call together. So good to see so many of our existing partners online. I think I obviously heard from Obi. I saw Cynthia Reese and Lindsay, and many more that I can't see because of how my screen is set up. But just let me just underscore the importance of what's been discussed here today. We've heard directly from our board that we need to go wider, deeper and wider, and we need to figure out how we can impact more students. I mean, if you look at those numbers, while we're proud of the work that we're doing with 2,500 plus awards, it's simply not enough. As you guys know, education is the great equalizer. Contrary to some popular belief that there's no need for an education or college education anymore, we don't believe that. We believe that, again, it's the great equalizer, and it can help level the playing field in many, many fashions or forms. And if you think about it, the Black middle class was born out of the HBCU education, arena. And we didn't always have the opportunities to go to, these PWIs, hence is why these HBCUs were created. And so we want to continue the strong message of, removing the financial barriers for those that are in need, because at the end of the day, students coming from what we call fragile communities, marginalized communities, however you want to, underserved communities, however you want to classify it, struggle. And the number one struggle is the financial barrier. And we want to remove those barriers the best we can. This is just a quote. I want to, obviously you can read it, but I'm just gonna recite it. None of us got to where we are solely by pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We got here because somebody, a parent, a teacher, an Ivy League crony, or a few nuns bent down and helped us pick up our boots. And that's from none other than the greatest, I'll say, Supreme Court Justice of them all, Thurgood Marshall, our namesake. And so that is so true. We can't do it by ourselves. It is our social responsibility, our civic responsibility, whatever you want to call it, to help these students. And then, listen, corporations not only provide opportunities for talented individuals who might otherwise face these financial barriers to education, but they also contribute to building a more equitable and diverse workforce. And so when you think about that, if you think about the landscape of some of the most profitable companies, they have diverse workforces. And a lot of that, stems from college educated, minority students, particularly coming from HBCUs. And so we have a brief call to action here. I mean, we all had some help. Someone help us, and we all can do more. But again, our goal is to increase that 2,500 award number to 10,000 at a minimum. And later on in this year and early next year, we're going to announce a large initiative that will even increase this message further. But again, 2,500 is great, but we can certainly do more. And so what we ask you to do is look at ways to expand your partnership. You can reach us at partners@tmcf.org. You can obviously make personal donations to tmcf.org/online gift. And don't forget, most of your companies do matches, and that's an easy way to double your funding or double your giving. And so look at ways that you can do some competitive challenges, by teams, divisions, be creative. But let's all chip in. And the bottom line is we can't do it without you. We can have all the great ideas and concepts, the connectivity with the students in schools, but we can't do this work without the help of our partners. And we're so appreciative to those that have already committed through several, initiatives that we do. Other programs might not have yet done scholarships, and we certainly welcome that. But your contributions don't go unnoticed, and so we want to recognize you and thank you. But again, we want to ask everyone to consider scholarships. It is the number one financial need of our students to help them get to school. And again, to Shayna's point, we also want to look at ways to get them through school as well, so they can not only survive but thrive and become economically mobile. So with that, I'll say thank you. I think I'm standing between some of you and your next meeting or your break, but I do want to take this time to say thank you for joining us today. There is a brief contact list, I think, after this slide, but on behalf of our founder, Dr. N. Joyce Payne, and current president and CEO, Dr. Harriet Williams, we say thank you and wish you a great rest of the week. Betsy, I'll turn it back.
Yeah, thank you so much, George. And I hope that you all have found this time well spent. We're going to be sending out the recording. We'll also make sure to send out the deck so that you'll have our contact information. I'm going to stop sharing. If anybody has questions, you can feel free to leverage the hand raise button. If you don't, great, no problem at all. Thank you all so much for joining. We'll stay on for a while and continue the conversation. And please feel free to stay on and listen to the questions. Hi, Gigi, I just saw you pop in. Yep. Hey, Allison.
Hey, Gigi. I didn't see Gigi.
Hey, Allison, what's your question?
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this event. This is exciting. I am from the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education, so very excited. I was just curious to know if you could provide any information you have on student-facing opportunities that we could potentially do if we are interested in expanding partnership. For example, hosting virtual information sessions or in-person sessions as well, or obtaining contact information of the students that you work with so we can let them know about the different opportunities that we do have, and especially for funding. So I was just curious if you all had something in place already, or if there's a potential to do something like that to get in front of your students directly.
Absolutely. And that's a really great question. We can for sure send you a lot of information. I know at your institution, we've worked with y'all in the past, and I know we certainly can talk. You guys have done a really great job in outreach to the HBCU community, and it's exciting to see. And so I think we can talk offline about ways to continue that partnership. Michael Hurlbert, who on my screen is right below you, but I don't know if he is on yours. I know that he and I can connect with you and continue the conversation. I think that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions? I know we have a lot of information. Wow, we've got 60 comments in the chat. I couldn't see anything while I was running, so we'll want to make sure that we answer all of those. Yes, can we put the slide back up with all of the contact information? Absolutely. Do that right now.
And while you do that, Betsy, I just saw Gigi pop up. I just want to invite our listen, guys, you should go play the lottery today because you have this young lady on the call today from Wells Fargo. But I just want to invite Gigi just to say a few words about our partnership with Wells Fargo. They've been a long-standing partner and just a phenomenal example of how a comprehensive partnership goes. So, Gigi, I just invite you to say a few closing remarks.
George, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's very exciting to see all the faces on the screen today. Wells Fargo has been a long-standing partnership. We actually go back to First Union National Bank and then became Wachovia, and now we're Wells Fargo. And I would tell you that the partnership, the investment has been the best investment that we could have ever made. I was talking with a member of my team who now manages the Thurgood Marshall College Fund relationship, and we were talking about careers and why we do the work that we do. And I explained to her that, for me, it's never been about the titles and advancing through the bank or the company that I work for. But for me, I just found it interesting that I ended up in a job where I would meet a Dr. Joyce Payne and I would hear why she created this organization, and I would meet all of the CEOs that have been in place, and to experience Harry Williams take the mantle and take this organization to the next level. And a constant all the time was, of course, George Spencer and some of the other members of the team who I know and love dearly. But the reason why I'm doing what I do and why the bank has made the investment that it has is because it's very obvious that you can't be relevant in the world as it is today unless you have people who are capable, who have the confidence and have been invested in such that they can navigate the corporate landscape and any other landscape they so desire. And a higher education is the big game changer. It is the thing that levels the playing field when you start to navigate these systems. So for us, our investment in Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is millions of dollars. I won't say the exact number, but it is millions because our relationship spans over about 20 years. If not more, George, I don't know the number at this point. I don't pay attention to that, but it's probably right. Since I've been with the bank
You're
for
right.
20, I've been
Yep.
here for
At least
29.
yeah, at
And I
least
would say probably 26, maybe 26 of those 29, we've had a relationship that started in one place and has grown and expanded and evolved. And it started with scholarships. But as the organization started to build out programs and platforms to make sure that the students had the wraparound services, the leadership development, and quite frankly, the awareness and the platform to heighten their awareness of the world of opportunities that exist for them, we've invested in all of those things. So for us, it's scholarships, it's programs, it's infrastructure, it's operations. And so, we've invested from our foundation over the years, plus we've invested monies from our business. Because when we start to recruit, and we know the vast amount of talent that comes out of HBCUs, of course, we can't recruit off of foundation money or we'll be shut down. So we look to expand the relationship across the entire enterprise to engage members of our organization who are HBCU graduates. I'm a proud graduate of Tennessee State University. When I talk about the power of an HBCU, I know that firsthand. I would not sit where I am on the management committee at Wells Fargo if it were not for Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, the land of golden sunshine by the Cumberland's fertile shore. So I'm just saying that, George, thank you for a moment to speak. I have a lot of passion around this work. I have a lot of passion around Thurgood Marshall College Fund. I'm thrilled to see the number that you want to reach, the 10,000. I think it is well within reach, but it is going to take everybody doubling down, working together, not necessarily trying to be exclusive, but trying to be inclusive across all interests to make sure these young people have access to the higher education opportunity that exists with our publicly funded HBCUs and quite frankly, across the HBCU landscape. So thank you for a few moments. Wells Fargo's all in and we're in to win, so we're here.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you. See, that's the way you do it. You put somebody like Gigi on the spot, she just kills it every time. Thank you so much, my good friend. Shout out to Natalie. I just see Natalie Moguls on the making. We just wrapped up.
Nat,
Natalie Brown with Ally, great longtime partner. So thanks for all you do, Natalie, as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the car, but I echo everything Gigi said. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, it looks like Teddy's got a question.
Yes, I do. Quick question. I'm not sure if this was gone over during the meeting, but what's the cycle? What's the timing in terms of when scholarships are either created, available for students to apply, and then dispersed?
Absolutely. I'm going to turn that over to either Jacqueline or Shauna to answer this question, though I'm always happy to take it, but you know, they never want the salesperson to tell you.
Thanks, Betsy and Sean. If I leave anything out, please chime in. And so our traditional cycle typically starts in the winter, just before the year starts. So, for example, we're in fall 23 now. We opened this scholarship cycle this February. And so we have a couple of options because we know sometimes for partners, timing is different. And so we do have a few cycles is what we call them available. This year we had 3 waves. So our first wave was February to March. Then our second wave was April to May. And then our final wave, because we know partners do all that they can do, and we want to meet partners where they are. Our final wave was a little later. It opened June and closed in July. And the goal to award is to start awarding in June. We try our best to have all funds or as many funds available out the door by August so that students can have those funds on their account when they start school in August. But we do know for that last wave, because it opens a little later, that we could potentially be awarding, through the fall. So I hope that answers your question.
So for clarification then, so students can apply for scholarships during these 3 waves?
Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm. So my other question is, so can a company create a scholarship any point in time and make it available? Or is there a vetting period, review, approval, etc.? How does that work?
Betsy, did you want to take that part?
Sure. So that's a great question, Teddy. So what typically happens is we'll work to get a contract completed. Well, if the scholarship team working with the development team has a preference, we get our contracts completed by the end of the calendar year so that we can launch during the first 3 to 4 months of the calendar year. When students are looking to get scholarships, they expect to apply for scholarships in January, February, March, and April. That's a traditional scholarship window, and that's when students are really looking for scholarships. After the scholarships close, what we then do is we have a group of volunteers that work with us that help us score the scholarship applications. We have rubrics. Once those scholarships are scored based on the number of scholarships for each partner, for each program, we then provide information to each of the schools where those students attend so that we can confirm and verify that the students are eligible, that they meet the criteria that our partner has set. And then once the verification comes back, which could take quite some time depending upon the school and how much work they have, once that comes back, then the student signs a scholarship agreement saying that they're going to continue to meet the requirements of that program. So the scholarship period will be open for 6 to 8 weeks. Once it closes, it goes through a scoring process. Then it goes through a verification process with the school. And then the student is notified, signs a scholarship agreement, and then the funds are dispersed. Does that help?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I know we'll be responsive in the chat, but anything else?
Betsy, I did want to add one thing to just when you talk about scholarships and building programs. I think one of the beautiful things about Thurgood Marshall College Fund is that if there is a need that you want to explore that students may have who need scholarship, that the Thurgood Marshall College Fund team is wide open to listen and to talk about it and to consider how you can structure what your support can be in a way that ends up with a shared success for what your organization is trying to accomplish. And, in addition to what the students need to accomplish and how Thurgood Marshall College Fund is trying to expand its capacity to deliver the scholarships and the support that students need. And a clear example of that is when we created a program around male scholars for education, realizing that there were not enough Black men in the classroom in public school systems across the United States, or any school system for that matter. And so we were able to fund a special program just for men, the teacher quality program. Another opportunity, of course, was when disasters occur, or even when students come to the end of the school year and they don't have enough money to finish, the emergency relief. And all of that is a result of just being in constant communication with the partner. For us, Thurgood Marshall College Fund is a Tier 1 strategic partner. And so we're in monthly communication and regular communication with the organization. And that gives us the ability to pivot and shift, and it gives them the ability to tell us when there might be an area of opportunity for us to do something different or do something more, or to shift our focus. So I just wanted to add that there's not a box that you have to fit in to engage with Thurgood Marshall College Fund. It's more about building a strategic relationship that has a shared success in terms of the outcome.
Thanks, Gigi, for that. That's very helpful. And I hope that that's a great takeaway for everyone, because I mean, what we want to do, any dollar we get in the door for scholarships, we want those funds out the door and in the students' hands. If we have $5 left in a program, we're giving $5 to a student. That's for sure. Aaron, you have a question?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Definitely.
great. So I had a question. I'm sorry I was a little tardy to the party here. But I was just wondering, so I get clarity on what's the call to action? Are you asking for firms to create scholarships, or are you asking us to contribute to scholarships? Just wanted to get clarity on that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. There are two main things that we would love our partners to do, or organizations to do. If you're interested in creating your own scholarship program, we would love to work with you to manage that program on your behalf. If you're not interested in that, but you want to help students manage the cost of education, we have a program called our All-Around Scholarships. And those are for organizations that just say, here's some funding that's available that we would love for you to spend. We want to give you guys this funding for scholarships specifically. And we put those funds in kind of a catch-all scholarship program. And those funds will then be allocated to students that it's a very, very broad program. It's available. I think the GPA maybe is like 2.75, and it's open to any major. So we love having the all-around scholarship program, because that helps meet the need if a student has a need and we don't have a scholarship program that fits it. I know one of the questions was, do you have hospitality scholarships? And I think we probably have some, but we probably don't have a lot, because a lot of our partners may be interested in STEM or business or finance, but maybe not fine arts, for example. And the All-Around Scholarship Fund allows us to support those students where we may not have a lot of funding for those specialist type programs. So whether a company wants to create your own scholarship program, we would love to work with you on that. If you want to work with us to fund the all-around scholarships, we'll work with you on that as well. And of course, as individuals, we are always happy for you to make donations.
Hey, Betsy, we had a question from Mish.
Okay. Aaron, does that? Yeah, let's.
I'm sorry, Aaron. Forgive me.
All good. There's a lot of people in here, so I'm gonna get my quick one in here.
Yep.
And thank you for explaining that. So my follow-up question is, in the way that we got here, the invitation is, we have been trying to give some money away to some scholars previously, and it's taken a little while to make that connection.
Mhm.
And so who on here on this contacts, who do we need to follow up with to
You know
have
what?
this
I'll
conversation?
follow up. I'll follow up with you directly, Aaron.
Okay.
So, and everybody on the call heard that, so you can call me on it. So I'm gonna get 100 emails asking if I've followed up with you. So pressure's on.
Thank you.
Yeah, are you good? Anything else? Happy to take more.
Yes, I was just wondering. This is Ray Austin at the commission. I apologize for that. I was wondering, are there any sports scholarships? And if there are, how do those work?
You know, I don't know if Sean or Jackie remember off the top of your head. I know we've definitely worked with the NBA has been one of our clients for a really long time. And we have the NHL is on our board, the NBA is on our board. So we work with a lot of athletic departments that have scholarships as part of other programs. I can't remember off the top of my head if we have sports specific programs. We do have programs where students who may be like going into athletic training or physical therapy and those kinds of things, where students may be eligible for those kinds of programs. So I think it's really a function of what it is that you're looking to do, or if there's specific components. So I think we could talk about that and see either, because if you're wanting to create a program like that, we absolutely could. And if you're looking to enhance a program like that, I think we just need to figure out what that looks like. Did that answer your question at all, or did I go?
Yes. No, that was great. No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay.
And you guys that don't know, that's the great Ray Austin from the Chicago Bears, many years, former pro athlete. So welcome, Ray.
Ray, did he play with Richard Dent, or is he too young for that?
I'm not that old yet, not yet. But he is a good friend though, and thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, Richard is my buddy. Richard was my bodyguard at Tennessee State. One of them,
You said Tennessee State, and the athletic director there, Mickey Allen, is probably it's basically my little brother. So,
awesome.
I'm a big Tennessee fan. So,
oh, good. Come hang out at homecoming. It's coming up soon. I'm sorry, George. I'll stop.
That's
I'll
okay.
be there.
Hey, I have a feeling that if when this call's over, we all stayed on the call. I feel like there'd be a whole lot of stories. We'll turn the recording off and we'll, get the real scoop. So
let me just say, Gigi, before I have to say, I am a Tipton County, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Born and raised, Tipton County.
Yeah.
I went to the University of Memphis, and I went to Southern University Law School. So Shelby County, Tipton. I did go at Austin P.
Yes.
So I made my funk the P funk. So just I'm done.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think for any of you that are coming to our gala in a couple weeks, I think, we may have a whole separate table for y'all. We can make that happen. One thing I did want to point out, if you guys noticed in the chat, Anthony made a comment. We had a student call today that says he's $3,700 short to stay in school. Those are the kinds of calls that we get on a regular basis. And we need to make sure that we understand that the student's biggest challenge is finances. And we need to do everything we can to help these students stay in school, matriculate, and be successful. And so we are very eager to continue the conversation. You can email partners@tmcf.org. You can email any one of us on this list. We are all over the moon happy to help create a program that is going to make a difference for you and is going to make a difference for your students, or for our students, your future employees, hopefully, because there's nothing more important for us than to see the economic mobility of our students, and they can only do that by getting to and through school. So unless there are other questions, Phil.
No questions.
Oh, you're just waving. So unless there are other questions, it feels right to me to pass it over to, Angela. Coming in under the wire, Angela.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I was just going to mention that,
Perfect.
don't forget Angela McDaniel, Department of Labor, dealing with HBCU efforts. So don't forget, we find that our minorities, it's great that they get scholar internships, but then how can they go to DC or New York and live, or California and live and do that internship when they can't afford that housing? So as we're offering scholarships and internship opportunities, let's hope that that could be a part of that process. I saw on the TV news that one student even flew for her one day that was required for her to come in for an internship. It was cheaper for her to spend $2,000 for the whole summer flying back and forth that one day than to stay in the particular city that she was staying. So if we could keep that in mind, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Nat, do you want to respond to that, or you have a different question or comment?
No, I was going to say thank you, Angela, for saying that. I mean, I have and how real that is. We even have a student that just graduated, is in actual grad school in California at USC, was one of our moguls, one of my interns, who can't afford, we were really struggling to kind of get dollars for him for his housing because he couldn't get housing on campus. So that's just so real for some of our HBCU students, especially those that are even graduate students. So I would just, add that have just graduated from school. So I would just wanted to make sure that, I just echoed how important that is for students that get the honor to go to some of these schools, be it PWI schools that are really great schools there, but they're East Coast, right? And just their families don't have, the means. And so I certainly encourage, TMCF, you've been a great partner to kind of help us make sure that student can get some funding. And so it's just so important to have that.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Natalie. And I'll just give a quick story, and then Alan will come to you. We had a student who was at school in one of the HBCUs in Oklahoma who had an opportunity to do an internship at an organization in Boston, and was trying to take care of housing and flights. And it was a dream opportunity. And after all was said and done, the organization was great because they reimbursed students for their travel and their housing. Unfortunately, the student didn't have the upfront funds to support that. And so the student wasn't able to take advantage of the internship. And so, as much as TMCF would love to foot the bill for all of that, as a nonprofit, we don't have a lot of, extra dollars on hand. And so when we work with our partners, one of the things that we really try to remind folks of is, a lot of our students don't have the ability to upfront the cost for some programs or amazing internships because they don't have a credit card to put an $800 airfare onto that, onto their credit card to cover the cost of some of these things. And so making sure that we're all open and upfront, I think is something that's super helpful. So both of you, Angela and Natalie, thanks for raising that. That's super helpful. Alan.
Yeah, I just wanted to share in line with that. So last year we had experienced that to be an issue for some of the TMCF students. At Caterpillar, we do reimburse our students, but some of our students are in different, socioeconomic statuses. And so this year, I'm just happy that we, as an organization, have decided that we are using a provider in the mobility space. And what they're going to be doing is providing upfront payments to these students and getting the money in their hands so they can make the proper decisions and they're not out of any monies if they decide to take our internship. So I would encourage, the other companies to maybe think through that if they're able to do that. I think that helps a lot of students because, hey, when I was in that situation, I did not have the money to front even for a month. And I think last year and the years before, we usually get the students the money within their first or second paycheck. But for some students, it still was a hardship.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Alan,
if I could just add,
awesome news. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, CDW, I just put it in the chat, CDW funds travel and housing for our fellows. And one of the things that we've added as well as a stipend to have them, when they arrive in Chicago, to have cash in hand. So we've put
That's
together a pretty unique program
Mhm.
to really facilitate them getting here and feeling comfortable upon arrival. This is our second year, and we're proud to say that we had a 2-year internship. We had 15 students, and all 15 students have excelled and are eligible to be hired into CDW.
That's great.
So,
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick. And Chris, I just want to piggyback and say, at ServiceNow, we all give everybody $5,000 relocation, but then like for the students who need that, they got to apply for a hardship, and then that way they get that money early for deposit and other stuff. So I echo kind of what everybody's saying.
Thanks, Chris. Nice to see you. Yeah, and thanks, Keith and Alan and Gigi. Hey, Janae.
I just want to say a quick word on behalf of Business Roundtable. So I work at Business Roundtable. We're a membership organization representing CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. It sounds like a number of our member companies are on this call, which makes my heart smile because we are very proud of our partnership with Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the support that you all provide Black students and being able to succeed and advance within corporate America, I think is a very important thing. BRT, I guess we're relatively late-ish to the party, but it's better late than never. We started our partnership with TMCF in 2021, and we're going strong and just continuing to support the work that you all are doing. We're so proud of it and encourage all of our member companies who are on this call to support it and make sure that you're providing these qualified students with the opportunities that they deserve. So really thank you all for everything you're doing. And yes, thanks, Betsy.
Oh, thanks, Janae. That's awesome to hear. Well, gosh, it feels like we should leave on that because, that was lovely. And, hopefully you all understand where we're coming from, that what we want to do is help as many students as possible, be as successful as possible, introduce them to you all for opportunities to get to and through school, whether it's through scholarships, wraparound programs, leadership development, professional development. Our students are extraordinary. And, you got a tiny taste of the amazingness with Marcellus. And, hopefully, you guys should all feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn if you haven't already. I know hopefully he'll have 100 different connection requests if he hasn't already made them with you. But we are so delighted with our existing partnerships and eager to continue to grow the number of partners that we have or grow our existing partnerships. We're thankful for the testimonials that you all have shared about your experiences. Obi, thank you for joining us and for taking your time to prepare for the conversation and join the conversation. But really, as George said, we couldn't do this without everyone on this call. And there's nothing more important than this work. And so we look forward to hearing from all of you. I will be directly in touch with Aaron, as we all heard, and you're all keeping me to it. And other than that, we will all look forward to continuing the conversation. And we cannot thank you enough for spending your time with us, for providing your questions and your comments in the chat. And we will provide the deck as well as the recording, and just are so grateful. So thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.